Hey, and welcome back. Today, I wanted to dive deeper into why I think it's okay to do dangerous things as safely as possible, and the 4 tips that I follow when I'm doing dangerous things. Now, I understand that it's easy for people to say, don't do that, insert activity here because it's dangerous, but pieces of advice like that don't actually fix the fact that someone out there wants to do it. The fact that I'm sitting here telling you that little old me wants to do these so-called scary and extreme BDSM and kink activities, I would assume that the next logical step would be for the people to stop pretending that this isn't something I want to do and that there are more people like that. And then just accepting that I actually want to do this, the next logical step would be, well, if you want to do this, let's see how we can do this as safe as possible. Because I don't understand why we're pretending like society doesn't like to do dangerous things. Danger is literally built into our society and culture. If you take a look at things like UFC or sports like rugby and lacrosse, they're super dangerous. Have you actually ever seen an injury from lacrosse? Lacrosse is basically hockey, except their sticks are in the air. So just imagine being hit in the face with a hockey stick. Even with the helmets, injuries from lacrosse or rugby, like even from personal work accidents, are just gruesome. And the influence of danger is everywhere. We have idolized it on television. It's practically in every Hollywood movie. Now, I'm not saying that everyone can do BDSM or that we should all just jump into doing dangerous things without thinking about it. When you do a dangerous thing, whether it's in BDSM or not, you need to be super and hyper aware of yourself and your partner and your surroundings. You also need to be honest with what skill level you're at, what things you're comfortable with, and if you're using tools, you need to be honest if you even know how to use those tools. I would never encourage someone to go above their skill set or do something they're uncomfortable with. And I always encourage people to check if they're in the right and suitable headspace. Even when you know how to do something dangerous, if you're frustrated or mad or sad or something is taking your focus away from it, then no, you're not in the right headspace to be doing dangerous things in the first place. I also view danger as subjective. Yes, there are things out there that I think that the most general people would assume are dangerous, like walking on the edge of a cliff, but we still have rock climbers. We still do these things. What is dangerous for you might not be as dangerous for me. For example, I did do a lot of backpacking in my 20s, and I did everything I was presented with. So I jumped out of planes in Namibia. I whitewater rafted. So even outside of the bedroom, I like to incorporate some danger. And really, I intend to make more memories that involve better danger. It's unlikely to say that at this age or this place in my life, I'm just going to write off all dangerous or risky activities. But I also know now that I'm not just going to do dangerous activities randomly or without thinking or knowing what I'm getting myself into. So the simple advice of just don't do BDSM stuff doesn't work for me. It's like saying if you don't want kids, don't have sex. But how often do you think that advice actually works? If I had to give you advice, my first piece of advice would be to congratulate yourself for even acknowledging that you're into this. It's hard, especially when people out there are saying, hey, don't do it. It's dangerous. What are you going to do? Blah, blah, blah. Because once you acknowledge that you're into this, then you can move to the next step, which is to become better educated on doing these BDSM activities safer. But I know that this step isn't easy for everyone. I know that there's a negative stigma out there for people who are into types of play like this, or any type of play that society has deemed dangerous, aggressive, extreme, weird, whatever the case may be. And that there's also this stigma that the people that are into this type of stuff must be broken or sad, miserable, something wrong with them. But this couldn't be farther from the truth. I know many people negatively use sex, but there are just as many people out there that are positively using sex. But we rarely hear about those stories. And why would we? Good stories just don't sell or make as much money as bad stories or negative stories. Like it shows in the core financial success of reality TV shows and gossip magazines. But also, you have to keep in mind where you're coming from, because I used to think that a lot of people thought of BDSM and kink negatively, but really I just think that they don't know, but people are curious to learn. And secondly, understand any contact sport or any type of contact play will never be 100% safe. I understand that one wrong move, or worst case scenario, is that I could die. You could die, especially in rack kinks, so risk-aware consensual kinks. And understanding that no one can make a guarantee that an accident won't happen. Accidents do happen. There's no way that you can go into every scene and think that an accident won't happen. You have to be prepared as if it would happen. So let that sink in if you're thinking about doing any type of rack kinks. And if you do decide to continue, you have to take personal responsibility for the choices of participating. This is a big one, and it ties into the self-awareness needed in tip 1. So you need to take the initiative to learn the new skills required when doing anything dangerous. And I don't even mean in a sexual context either. Like for me, I don't particularly like using knives. So because of this, I don't like cooking. I don't like doing these things. But learning how to do knife skills has made cooking easier for me. I wouldn't say as to go so far as now it's fun, but at least it's better. I'm not nervous or more antsy. Because handling knives is dangerous, but I feel that there's a lot of people out there using knives that don't actually know how to use them. So just take a look at the simpler things in your life that quote unquote are dangerous, but yet we do every day. And see if you can increase those skills. Which rolls into my tip 3, which is get specific. Get specific on what type of dangerous play you want to do and get educated on that. I had to learn a lot about the neck because I like breath play, which obviously involves the neck. Now, when I originally say this, I think people picture like 2 hands going down like to the point where like my neck's going to break. And there are extremes of it. But neck play can also just be ranges of pressure. So growing up, the neck was a central part on the old romance films that I watched with my grandparents. And even beyond that, I was always obsessed with vampires. So of course the neck was always there. But these exaggerated and emotional couples going to town on each other's neck because like anything else would be too risque in those films. Like that's what I was shown first. So I actually love it. So my neck has become one of my favorite places to give attention to. And among other reasons, I do find it incredibly sexy and I feel very connected to my partner when that area is being used. And like I said, there are ranges of pressures I can take. And I understand that the more pressure I use or the more pressure I allow my partner to use, the risk of danger goes up exponentially. Also, I want to make one note about breath play, as I think one of the most common mistakes I hear when people are using this or want to talk about it is that they use the word choking instead of strangulation. Now, I want to differentiate that choking happens when you don't chew your food or something goes down the wrong way and blocks the airway in your throat. Strangulation is when someone uses their hands or something outside of the neck to stop or slow the airway. So breath play isn't choking on your food, although there are other things that can mimic choking, like gagging on something in your mouth. Still, breath play is levels and pressures of strangulation and takes immense control, eye contact, nonverbal communication, trust, and training. Now, I have to admit, I used to make this mistake too with the words, and for the most part, I felt like no one really seemed to mind when I first got into this. But as I got deeper into this journey, I learned how much language actually matters. So you need to be clear on what you're doing so you can learn what you're supposed to be doing for what you're actually doing. Now, my 4th piece of advice is not really advice, but rather a requirement. Before you even put your hands on someone, especially the neck area, you should do a one-on-one in-person demonstration with a professional or trained, certified, licensed, any type of legal things where someone is like, yes, I have done this. I know this area of the body. Because as much as you can watch a YouTube tutorial, you need that hands-on experience. And if going to a sex workshop isn't your thing just yet, that's okay, because you can check out martial arts studios or sports centers, because I don't want you to get yourself into a situation where you aren't experienced and your partner isn't experienced either, and it ends up being this blind leading the blind situation, which is super dangerous for absolutely everybody. And I also want you to remember that even when you do go to an in-person class, don't think you know it all. You always got to go slow. Always remember accidents happen. People can get hurt. And the worst case scenario, ding, 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 is death. So as much as I want to stress that, I don't want to scare you guys, but understand what you're getting yourself into. And I want to open these conversations up because I know that limiting conversations on topics like this is why people get into so much trouble in the first place. Because it feels like for people that want to do this, we have nowhere to turn. And if you're like me and do identify as someone who likes to do these sorts of things, you sometimes don't even want to ask because you're worried about what other people will think. But trust me, there's people out there that want to help you, especially in the BDSM and kink community. Now, remember that millions of people are doing something dangerous every day. Whether it's the knives, whether it's in sports, at their jobs, or just crossing the street in the middle of Yonge and Dundas. I'm not anti-danger. I actually believe we should all be doing something that's a little dangerous, but in a safer setting. That's how humans learn best. Look at little kids. They might get a few bumps and bruises along the way, but they get to process in real time how their body reacts to different pains and tolerances right there in the moment. So they get to learn where their limits lie. So it's not, again, like, especially with breath play, I want to stress this. It's not that you randomly have somebody just grab your neck off the bat by surprise. Like, this isn't in the movies. This isn't like in the movies. So I do want to shout out to the people that still think that we shouldn't be doing dangerous things. Like, I get it. I understand that most people, when they say don't do something dangerous, or any type of rack play types, they're coming from a concerned place. And they really don't want you to get hurt, or, you know, maybe they don't care, or maybe they were brought up with different values and, you know, we were all raised differently. But regardless of whatever the reason is why they don't want you to do it, but do you think I want you to get hurt too? No, absolutely not. But I will never tell you not to just do whatever dangerous activity you're talking about, like just a blanket statement like that. I would just tell you to learn how to do it as safely as possible. And watching a YouTube video or a video on a porn site doesn't cut it. It's not enough. It's not training. It's nothing. It's just maybe you're learning a rough outline of it, an overview. That's great. Watch some videos before you go in person. But rack activities or breath play aren't beginner types of play, and it's definitely something you need to do in person. And again, if you don't want to go to a sex club, check out some martial arts and other places that work with physical activity. And after speaking with them, I'm sure they will tell you the same thing I'm telling you now. Even with all the instruction, demonstration, practice in the world, sensitive physical activity like this will never be 100% safe. But you don't have to take it to extreme. If you're curious about your neck, simply start with someone's hands around your neck with no pressure. Just have them lie on your neck, calm. How does it feel? Can you feel your neck muscles? Can you feel the heartbeat? Can you feel their blood pumping through their veins? There's a lot going on when someone's hands are around someone's neck. It's really connected. Well, at least for me, that's what I thought it was. I thought it was the hottest thing ever. I love it. That's really how it started. It didn't start with someone grabbing my neck and choking me. It just started with someone placing their hands on my neck and me being like, wow, this actually is a really hot place. Now I understand why, everybody loves this so much. But you don't want to be underprepared for something like this. Other types of training that I find are helpful if you're in BDSM and kink are things like CPR certification as well. All types of training help, like even knowing your BDSM basics impact zones. So just to recap, if you are interested in doing things dangerously, as safe as you can, congratulate yourself on being aware that you're into it. Understand that there's risks. Never be 100% safe. Then get specific and educated on what types of danger you want to do. Then continue to get one-on-one, in-person, hands-on training. I do believe that life is tough. I believe that we can handle a lot. I believe that the human body is resilient and that we can bounce back from a lot of things. But there are just as many things that make life just as fragile. So take care of yourself. Take care of your partner. Because in those raw moments, like I've said before, all you have is each other. So what do you think? Do you think it's okay to do dangerous things safely? Let me know in the comments. And if you like what you heard, make sure to like, follow, and share. Well, that's it for me. Thank you for listening. Tune in next week. And as always, stay kinky.